All right, I'm a bit early today. You guys know how this works. You put your questions in the chat and I will answer them, but until then, I guess I'm gonna riff. Well, hold on. Antonian Tiger, how you doing, my guy? I am still sick, and it's getting quite annoying. Basically, I'm fine all day until I lay down for bed, and then I cough for 2 hours because it's all settling. So, I'm more tired than anything else, but, you know. I'm actually doing pretty good. If you look at the community post here, I lost a shit ton of weight, and like I did the math. I basically lost 20 pounds in total, but then I gained like 6 to 8 pounds of lean muscle mass at the same time. So I really lost 26 pounds of fat while gaining like 6 pounds of muscle in the past 6 weeks. I don't really know why. I don't know how accurate that is, but you know, there's a pretty solid win. Forsaken, I saw your latest video and it was interesting to say the least. Great work on the weight loss. I really didn't want to do it, but like it was getting to the point where like if I didn't come out with it publicly, I feel like a lot of people were going to start being misled. So yeah, that's why I did that. It's not fun. Like I opened myself up for so much criticism, but to me it made more sense to just like let it out all in the open if they weren't going to take these concerns seriously, because like I know what's happening. I ran the community for 4 years. I can see exactly what's going on, but you know, I really don't want to talk about it too much more. Sorry for your loss. I'm doing good, man. Like that shit's been bothering me for like 6 months at this point, so like I'm finally, you know, free of it. It's no longer just something I have to keep in the back of my head. Hello, J-Bets. And then, why did I get rid of getting bigger in the first place? Well, for one, I overreacted at the beginning. So, like, someone that was relatively friendly with me was saying that I was being very biased because I own shit. And, like, half of that was because I did not allow a certain vendor on there, and it was all because of my business bias, but really it was all because of that personal bias that, you know, he came after me so aggressively. So I gave up r/getting bigger because like, okay, I can't really run the community and run my business at the same time. But I really think it was kind of just a trick to get me out of the equation at this point, but you know. Hello, Fritz Z and Scott B. Is hanging and extending basically the same thing? Basically. So they both stretch the dick. The only difference is extenders. Let's see. I have mine here. Since it pushes into you and pulls out into open space, it kind of moves the tension to the center and does more like a spreading effect. So you will get a little bit more shaft isolation than anything else. And this is much easier to walk around with than like, you know, 5 pounds hanging off your dick. So like if you're trying to multitask a bit around the house, get a high tension extender. But like if you're trying to save money, a hanger is going to work just as well as this long term. And Forsaken, I didn't give away full control of getting bigger. One of my employees is the top mod there. So like if it gets really bad, I could take like a huge hit to my reputation and just have him nuke the site and start from scratch that way, but I don't want to do that. Okay. Was there 2 questions about DHT? So Orlando Jr. asked, just to prove for testosterone cream, think about applying it to the penis since the cream converts to DHT more than injection. Sorry, Red. But no, that doesn't work that way, period. So you're better off getting it where the androgen receptors are most active, and that's going to be on your shoulders. Putting on your penis really won't do much. And that's all I can really say about that, because like basically it needs to go from testosterone to DHT. It needs to be DHT to activate in the penis, right? So it has to go through your bloodstream, hit 17 alpha reductase to turn it into DHT, and then it can actually be bioavailable. So like if you just rub it in your dick skin, you're actually gonna get worse absorption because there's just not that much blood flow at the dick skin compared to like your shoulders. And then let me get the other DHT question. Do you think DH cream could do work for someone at 17? I do not recommend it because like what happens is that it actively conflates or competes against estrogen, and that could like cause you to prematurely stunt your like height growth. So you could be permanently stunted at, you know, whatever height you're at 17. Then obviously there's other health risk associated with it, but like you're more likely than not going to get beyond your natural genetic limit taking DHT as a 17-year-old. So like you just get to your adult size faster because like then the genes settle down, the protein transcription slows down, and you just won't grow as much. And did I delete my Patreon? I did suspend it just because like I have so much going on that I thought it was unfair for you guys to be paying that much every month to get very little from me. So like it's suspended. I don't need it to survive at this point. So like I'd rather focus a lot more on this YouTube than, you know, trying to balance 3 or 4 different places to post things. Maybe if I get like a content manager next year, it would make it a lot easier, but you know. Hello, Demavicious. Alex, could you use IR heating pad in direct contact with the skin while hanging? Yes, you can, but you got to make sure that it's not too high that it will burn you, right? So like anything above 115 degrees is probably going to be a potential burn risk. That's just off the top of my head. You can actually look it up to see what the skin starts to burn. But it's got to warm up the skin to that point. And if it's in direct contact, it's still going to take a bit to get that high. Like with my infrared heating pad, I said it's 115, but normally only reads like 110 on the thermostat. So it's fine. Just don't get it wrapped around the plastic because it's going to cause a potential higher risk of blisters because of the heat. Do you think any aromatase, okay, one more time. Nick Porsche, do you use any aromatase inhibitors with your TRT? No, I really don't, because the way I do take it is that I stay in like a relatively normal range. So that way my estrogen's never exceedingly elevated. So like you really only need an aromatase inhibitor on testosterone if you're overweight or obese, or if you're taking more than your body needs, because like your estrogen and testosterone should be balanced, right? Because estrogen is great for your brain, great for your skin, great for your hair. But when you start taking too much testosterone, you're not going to have nearly as many like androgenic effects because you're already very used to androgens, right? But when you start getting elevated estrogens, that's when you're more sensitive, just because you don't have a lot of it in your system to begin with. So for most guys, you don't need an aromatase inhibitor unless you're like, let's say above 22% body fat and taking more than 175 milligrams of testosterone a week. Scott B, got a big box from PMP. Thank you for your purchase. Waiting to get an extender from y'all. So that's in the works. Perv actually just texted me. But we're working on it. If you want an extender right now, just order from massivenovelties.com. I can guarantee you it's going to be a really good product. It's going to be the same thing that I'll be carrying for the most part. And hello, Waking Dream. Hitman. Got my supplements yesterday and tried Fortitude. I don't know what y'all put in there, but Jesus Christ. This hand, that ice cream sandwich, or a hole is going to be... Okay, so I'm assuming it really increased your libido. For me, it doesn't do much for my libido, but it increases my sensitivity to my penis. So like, it just feels better when I touch it, and I guess that could increase libido. But yeah, I don't know exactly how Hank formulated all this shit, but it is literally... He is single-handedly changed my opinions on supplements, because before we really got into this, I didn't think too highly of it. But like, he knows what the fuck he's doing, and that's all I can really say about that. And Hitman, you can take Fortitude and Vitality together. You just might need to cycle Vitality every 6 to 8 weeks for So 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, just to keep your normal sensitivity to the supplement. Okay, J-Bets. Been doing PE since March 2023. Just switched back to intervals, but I can't get to 10 by 2 at 9.5 inches of mercury, too much edema. AM and PM feeder sets, and so 9 intervals total. So you're pumping 3 times a day, 6 days a week. Is that enough work? It might actually be too much work. So you should see pretty fast bloating, and then it should kind of cap out about 7 to 10 days in, is what I noticed. So like, if you get that and your erection quality is still good, you're on the right path. Okay, Nick. Can I gain length if I don't do the 10 1-minute fatigue sets, but do 3 10-minute strain sets of hanging right away? Yes. So like, that's just old school PE. If you wanted to get real old school, you just do 30 minutes straight. But the argument for doing a lot of sets is that every time you load and unload the weight, the collagen has to stretch. And collagen breaks down at the point of load. So when it's stretched, that's when it will break down again. So if we're just looking at this from like an efficiency standpoint, the more sets you do, the more work you get done. So ideally, if you don't want to do fatigue sets, you'd actually do 6 5-minute sets. So that way you get still double the overall failure potential than 10-minute sets, just because you're doing it in 5-minute spurts now. Quick question, guys. How do I sound? My little, mic sometimes has issues, so just let me know and I'll check the comments in a second. And I should see if what I'm answering is on the screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. Scott B. Is hanging 20 minutes and 20 minutes and 20 minutes of 10 to 12 of inches of mercury. I'm assuming you meant pumping. 10 to 12 inches of mercury to start is going to be a little bit overkill. I would recommend doing like 5 to 7 inches of mercury to start. In worst case scenario, you just spent the first month working on your erection quality, and then you can work your way up to like 10 to 12 inches of mercury. It's more so just so that way you don't overly stress out your dick right away. Okay, Shaggy. What are my thoughts on Angion method? I hate Janice. I think he is a prick, so I am very biased against it. His argument is that shear stress causes angiogenesis. So the faster you twiddle your thumbs on your dick, you can create a high flow event in your penis, and that's going to cause shear stress on the blood vessels, which then causes growth, right? And then he has a whole bunch of different variations of Angion method to, cause angiogenesis, right? That part is relatively scientifically sound. The problem that isn't sound, and this is why I have such fucking issues with Janice, is that he used to think it was going to change PE and no one would be doing pumping. And like, if you did the Angion method, say to like your bicep, it would just grow from that. So obviously it doesn't work like that, right? The limiting factor for erection size is the tunica albuginea, and shear stress to blood vessels has no correlation to shear stress on the tunica albuginea. So you can't gain size from it. That is a well-known fact at this point. Is it good at erection quality? Like, it's a very overcomplicated way to do erection quality improvement. But like, in my opinion, if you do 15 minutes of pumping total, along with increasing your cardiovascular health, in general, you're going to have much better effects than Angion method with a lot less repetitive motion. Okay, so Hitman said he saw on Getting Bigger that someone tried to use rubbing alcohol to clean the discoloration on the D. Does that work? I don't think it would that well. What I could see is that it dries out the top layer of the skin, and then it causes a very minor skin peel. So like, if you do it enough times, it's possible, but I really doubt long term it would work all that well. Okay, Lote. What would I do if I want girth and length at the same time, combining length routine? So like, think about it as a ratio. So I say optimal length gains come from an 80% elongation to 20% expansion. So you get most of your work done with length, with elongation, and then you fill in that new tissue with expansion. Then with girth, it's going to be the opposite. So you need 80% expansion, and in this case, 20% like massage mechanics to help loosen up that tissue. Because like we're really talking about collagen production, we're talking about blood vessel development. So if we're trying to create an optimal environment for both, we would need to make sure that we have like 50-50 time to both. The problem is when you get to like that much work, it becomes very taxing and it's very easy to like decrease erection quality. Additionally, we got to produce collagen in two directions now. So those stem cells are actually going to be kind of like diffused more, so that way you don't get as much growth in one direction. So it would work, but like I personally think going for like a 1/2 inch to an inch of length your first year is going to be much more rewarding than trying to get 1/4 inch in girth and a 1/2 inch in length, right? So like you can get up to an inch in length, or you can get like up to 1/2 inch in length and maybe 1/4 inch in girth. So like it really just comes down to what you want, but I just think divide and conquer is a lot more effective. Cried Zoe, just want to say thanks for the work you do, brother. Thank you. I don't know if it's in reference to my video that I posted today, but like I was surprised with how positive those comments were. So again, thank you guys for the support. I've been holding that stuff in for 6 months, and like I kind of was going crazy because like normally people, you know, talk things out and respond well and you can see changes, but like it was just talking to a wall for 6 months. Okay, Eddie. My guy, I'm having issues pulling my dick out of the 2-inch tube after a few weeks of pumping. My girth is 6, got to 2 1/4, but I don't think I'm ready. What do you think? So like you can do half time with the 2.0 and then jump up to the 2.25 once you're like somewhat packed in the 2.0, right? It won't really matter all that much how you do it. It's more so comfort. Like I notice if you use a tube that's slightly too big, it pulls in more nutsack and it hurts a bit more. But like you'll probably have better effects long term with the slightly bigger tube since you can expand more. Okay, Eugene's. When pumping, how do you know if you're building collagen or new skin? Which is best for growth? You should be building both, right? Because you're expanding the skin as you stretch out the tunica, right? Skin's just going to grow a lot faster because it has an active blood supply, and that way that collagen is going to just build up faster in the skin. There's a different type of collagen, but it should just grow. Then ideally you get to the point where the skin doesn't stretch as much because you just have so much loose skin that it won't grow. And then the only time you'd really grow more excessive skin is by doing something like fetish pumping, which is going to be like, you know, pumping for more than 40 minutes at a time, bloating it up as much as possible without really working the underlying tissues. So like, yeah, you will grow both. It's going to be next to impossible not to. But like, it's going to be a certain point where the skin will just not be able to stretch because it's already stretched out so much and grown so much. What measurements are too big, and when should you stop if you don't have a long-term partner? Oh my God, dude. So this is all perspective, right? But in general, Magnum XL condoms don't work for guys over like 5.5 mid-shaft. So like if you're thicker than that, it's going to be a tight fit with Magnum XLs. And then like the largest condom off the shelf that would fit you up to like 6 inches in girth is going to be the Durex XL, right? So like if we're just talking like statistical anomaly, if you want to say you have a huge cock, Magnum XLs is pretty colloquial for that. Don't get bigger than 7.5 by 5.5. That way you can still be quite large, but it doesn't impact your like ease of use all that much. Now, practical limit would be like 8 by 6 because like that is going to be bigger than most porn stars. and still relatively reasonable to use. And then that's when you really want to like, okay, I'm gonna wait until I get a long-term partner and get bigger then if they're into it. And like also, if you're into women, they can handle a little bit less than men. So like, you know, you could probably get a little bit bigger with guys than with girls just because they're literally bigger individuals. But Destroyer, I don't even go on our getting bigger anymore. All my questions come here. I have noticed, and that's fine. That's literally like the point of these streams, is to help people. So Mr. Steve, how important it is to go into the pump erect? The first set, no problem, but in between each set's a little more difficult. I have the bathmate for a pump. I'll switch when I have the funds to become available. So first, Mr. Steve, if you're having erection quality issues between sets, you're probably using a bit too much pressure with the bathmate. So like, don't pump it up as hard, and that might fix your issue. But like, I wouldn't say I'm particularly hard every other set after the first one, because like you're expanded and bloated. So like your dick's worn down a bit, so it can't be nearly as hard because it's literally broken down a little bit. So as long as you can get to near your max size, ideally bigger since you just pumped up, you're going to be pretty good to go. It's like, as long as you can go in with your ischiocavitous muscle allowing you to have an erection, so that'd be flexed in this case, and then some kind of arousal, you should be able to pump just fine. Hitman, my course didn't get an answer the first time. Can you use the apex and a compression hanger at some point? Can you only do, or the other session every day? So I don't know if I just can't read you, you're dropping words, but like, I don't have the male hanger in my little box here, but this hook allows you to connect the male hanger, right? So you can use the male hanger as your, or you can use this as the weight for your male hanger. The problem is, since you're like over 8 inches, you probably have some issues getting your entire dick in here and still have tension. So I know this is actually a relatively easy thing to modify if you actually need more. I would email Massive Novelties on how, but all you gotta do is pop it off the base and then take off these arms, and then you can literally add an extension to this, like, you know, as literally can be as big as you need. But like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get to that point. Okay, hot sunshine. Pumping stretches the skin. Yes. Will that be permanent or a bad thing? So like, it could be bad if it's just like fetish pumping and you're excessively pumping the skin only, and that's constantly stretching, and then you get like an elephant nose if you're uncut. But like for us cut guys, it's exceptionally useful because like most of us are tightly cut. So that means there's not much skin movement, and it makes it much easier to, like, let's say, dry up any natural lubricants because of friction, right? But if you have a little bit of ruffling with the skin, that lubricant sticks around a lot longer, speaking from experience. So like a little bit of skin for a cut guy goes a long way. But if you're uncut, you got to be a little bit more careful. But again, if you're doing like 20 to 30 minutes a day, you won't have excessive skin growth. Main thing you got to worry about is actually stretch marks. But that comes with like doing pumping for more than, 40, 60 minutes at a time at, just insane edema levels. Let's see. Lo, can you explain to me what should do in fatigue sets? What we should do in fatigue sets? Do we do low tension in them or just short sets? So like the weight should be constant throughout the routine. You can like work up and use them like a warm-up set. So like, let's say your target weight's like 7 pounds. First exercise or first set's gonna be 4 pounds, and then 6 pounds, and then 7 pounds. So minute 1, minute 2, minute 3. You can do it that way. That's how I used to do it. But like, lately I've just been cranking it up to 10 pounds and just holding it there. But it should just be relatively the same tension and just shorter sets than your fatigue sets. Okay, Ibrahim, how goes it with your pelvic floor? I mean, I'm assuming it's okay. What is your top 3 stretches if you had to choose 3 just to do daily? So I've actually was thinking about scripting this video, but I've been sick and I just haven't felt like writing. But first one is going to be a cannonball type stretch. So like, sorry, I ran over a wire. We bring up both legs here and here, right? And then you try to pull them apart while keeping your, or you round your pelvis up, and that's going to really open up your taint. That's going to be like direct pelvic floor work, the closest you could possibly get to like an actual pelvic floor stretch. And then we're going to really do something like prayer pose is really good for this. It's going to open up your hip abductors. I'm not going to set up my camera right now for it. And then I would say butterflies or some kind of lunge stretch to, you know, open up the abductors more. And then probably something for glutes if we're looking for specific like sex performance stuff, but like that's not going to really directly correlate to the pelvic floor as much. Excuse me, guys. I don't know if I muted it or not, but I tried to not cough on you all. Okay, forsaken. Whenever I pumped at the beginning after my set, I pulled out of the dick. I noticed I was completely soft. Now semi after a set. What does that mean? Improved erection quality? Could be like erection staying power, more accurately. But yeah, that's probably a good sign. I can't say I've noticed it, but it's been so long ago that, you know, I wouldn't remember. So Scott B, 5.5 months of PE. Thank you and Hank, no injuries. Yeah, so I think injuries are a bit, you know, overrated anymore. Like a lot of people don't actually get a lot of injuries, but there's like at this point where we're still like teaching old school PE and the injury rate was just really high. And like Hank came on the scene and then he kind of forced me to be more like of a scientific guy just because of, you know, he puts himself to such a high standard, therefore I got to match him. And that's what kind of brought us down to this point where like, okay, we only need so much tension and so much pressure to actually see gain, so that we should make that our mainstay. And that's when we really saw the injury rate drop. Even though there's probably more people doing PE more than ever, they are not getting hurt because like they're getting good advice. So okay, Fabi honest, do you endorse soft clamping right before pumping? Probably not right before. Right after is just going to be so much more effective because like you're trapping in that expansion from pumping. So like it's going to be like a retention set as well as a hypoxic set. So like as long as you don't like jerk it right immediately afterwards, your fucking flaccid is going to be huge for hours. So in my opinion, flip the order. It always makes more sense to overexpand and then seal it in than it does to like cause stress right before pumping. Nick Porsche. If I don't have DHT in my area, it's actually a really shitty compound, so most people won't. Can I substitute it with Proviron to get DHT benefits? So Proviron is its own separate compound and it is honestly much better than DHT for like bodybuilding, but it won't have that many androgenic effects. So for those who don't know, Proviron is a steroid based off of DHT that had an alteration that made it a little less androgenic and a little bit better to binding to muscle anabolic receptors. So I don't know if they're anabolic receptors, but you get the point. They're better for muscle tissue growth than it is for like, you know, anything DHT related. What it actually is really good for is crushing sex hormone binding globulin. I messed this up before, but that basically is what keeps your natural testosterone bound up and you can't use nearly as much. So like what we really care about like with bodybuilding and all that shit is free testosterone, because that's what our body will actually use as a hormonal response. So if we have more free testosterone, it's going to make your just results better. So if we take Proviron and then take testosterone, our testosterone dose is going to be more effective than without testosterone. And then if we want to take it even further, if you're taking like a steroid with it, you're going to get an even better response of those steroids because proviron is keeping the sex hormone binding globulin busy. But it will not have any effect on PE just because it's not designed to really bind with like the androgen receptors in the penis. Okay, so J-Bet's a little confused. Sorry, 9-minute sets and feeders are too much. It could be. Like, it'd be like telling someone who never ran before to do 15 miles a day, right? If you are a well-conditioned dude, 15 miles a day, no problem. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't run, but for someone starting off, it could be an issue. So like, you need to pay attention to your erection quality. If your erection quality starts dropping, it's probably because you're doing too much work, so. Destroyer bought the 2 little vibration motors and you felt dirty not getting them from me. Don't, because again, we don't really know how well they work, right? And I don't want to put like my actual name behind them yet. If they do work, let me know. And then, you know, better case for me to sell them later. TJM, I don't know if you put like 3 questions, but like I'm only seeing the last one. Okay, since we are pumping 3 times a day though, there are no studies done on this protocol. How long are you willing to give it in order to see if there's a significant increase in girth? So like I saw a significant increase in girth like within the first 2 months of doing this. Like I did it for a month, I put on 1/4 inch, right? So to me, it's like an open and shut case and it matches with the science pretty well. That being said, like I haven't seen pictures of it yet, but like it's been next to impossible to post pictures on certain communities. So like it's going to be just hard to tell if someone's gained from it yet. So if you guys could do me a solid, start taking pictures of your dick and posting on r/gettingbigGirth. But the more I think about it, that pumping protocol, TJM, I have most of the guys on my gainathon stuff that I really need to do calls for doing something similar, and one guy gained 1/4 inch in girth within the first 6 weeks. Another guy, we were mainly focusing on length, and he gained like at least 1/8 inch of girth in 6 weeks. And I'm not so sure about the other 2, but like just that fact alone tells me like it is more potent than it is to like train length at the same time, right? So like if you're training length at the same time, you're actually just going to gain girth with how much you're pumping. Scott B, should I hold off on PE since I'm 7 3/4 by 5 5/8 and I don't have a long-term partner? It's really up to you, dude. Like, let's just assume that older women are going to be able to handle larger penises just because of like they're used to having sex, right? So like you could easily get bigger than 8x6 and find someone that works for you. And like, let's be real, if you're trying to be like a bull for, you know, cuckoldry, you probably want to be larger than 8x6. So like if you can get bigger, go for it. It's more so like, it's a bit of a headache when you're too big because you gotta like, this is gonna sound gross, but break them in to get used to your size. And it can take anywhere from, you know, 2 weeks to 6 months. And sometimes it just never works, so. Okay, so can you do the apex one set and then compression hanging the next? Or is the best way to do one or the other? So like, they're basically the same thing. It's just the apex is a little better because it stretches from the center rather than in one direction, right? So like, again, you can use the male hanger in the apex. It just depends if you're too big or not. And then Waking Dream has stretch marks on his dick to show progress. I also have stretch marks on my dick, and it just makes my discoloration look worse because they're purple stripes and some dark patches. So I wish I didn't have them, but like, you know, I can't control it. So Antolian Tiger, I'm single again. He is 7.8 non-bone pressed. Do you think this would be a problem for me? Could most women handle my size after some time to adjust? I would assume most women would be able to handle up to 8 inches relatively easy with some practice. There's just going to be some women where, like, depending on how their uterus is sat and how like shallow their vagina is, like, you could do absolutely nothing to avoid the cervix. Like, it would just be right there in your face, and it'd be almost impossible for you guys to have good sex. That being said, I'm assuming most women are not going to be that deep or that shallow, so you should be fine. But, like, I personally wouldn't get bigger than like 8.5 bone pressed. Then again, I don't know, because I got a size fetish, so I might just throw reason to the wind. But Mr. Steve, another cue: I should gradually increase pressure each set, or just get up to my working pressure as quickly as possible to have shorter set times. So, like, your first set or two, so like if we're talking interval pumping, 7, 8, and then get to your working pressure. So like 7, 8, 10, right? I wouldn't really worry about it too much. Main thing is you just don't want to pump up super fast to the point where, like, your blood vessels in your skin can't handle that pressure variance and they burst. So, like, you can pump up to your normal working pressure. I normally do, but I just do it slowly so that way the tissue has time to dilate to handle that pressure. Eddie, do you recommend collagen supplements? Not normally. Like, the only time I really recommend collagen supplements is, like, if you don't get enough protein in your diet. But, like, if you are eating, I'm going to say, more than 75 grams of protein a day, you are going to be pretty good. Like, I'm assuming most of you guys lift or something, you know, eat a relatively high amount of meat. It's pretty easy to get over 100 grams of protein a day. Okay, load. Can we get 1 inch in length and half an inch in girth consecutively in 2 years? So you're saying 2 inches in total in length and then 1 inch in girth. Then, or for more gain, should we focus 1 year in length and 1 year in girth? So in your first 6 months, I can almost guarantee you will gain some girth just from erection quality and shape change. But, like, after your first 6 months, you should pick something. So, like, I usually say length because it has the most visual effect. But girth definitely has better improvements to sex life. So I would say a year straight of focusing on length. You might put on a little bit of girth in the meantime, and then you can add more girth afterwards. And then in 2 years, you could probably gain like 1 inch to 1.5 inches in length. And then, since we're splitting it up, anywhere from 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch in girth, just depending on how bad your erection quality was to start. John Thomas, how do you prevent turkey neck? So, when hanging, you gotta actually hold your testicles back, and you can use the ball stretcher to help with this a bit, but, like, you just need to keep the skin tight as it pulls. And then you're really better off using like an extender, because that's gonna actually push your balls back with, you know, the springs. And I've noticed actually a lot of improvement with my turkey neck by just using the Apex extender, and it just, you know, stretches the skin properly then. Everlasting, 5-alpha reductase inhibitors are bad for gains. Is that finasteride? Let me just double check. 5-alpha reductase. Yeah, I believe that's like finasteride. It's not really going to be bad for gains, because once you're done with puberty, your dick's not really sensitive to DHT. What we're actually doing is collagen production via wound healing and like strength adaptation that you would see in tendons and ligaments. So, like, if we're looking for a hormonal boost to PE, we want to look at stuff that boost healing overall, rather than looking at like what causes sex characteristics. So no, Hank's on finasteride. I think he's been on finasteride for at least 3 years at this point. So, and he's gained so much already, right? So it doesn't really matter. Okay, how to have a long flaccid in the cold? Ask Nacho Macho. So you gotta just assume you're never gonna have your summer flaccid in the winter, right? But the question then becomes, how do we get a bigger flaccid. And there's two things. First, making sure that your pelvic floor is not fucked to make sure blood can actually get into your dick. And two, increasing the collagen ratio to what's it called? Elastin. The more collagen you have, the harder it is to pull it tight. Therefore, your dick's going to be bigger that way. So ideally, if you just do PE long enough, most of you guys will become better showers. And if you add in the pelvic floor stretching and all that jazz, we should be good to go and become bigger when cold. But like, so my flaccid size in the summer is probably like 6.5, close to 7 inches bone pressed. Right now it's probably like just over 6. So again, I know I'm a very major shower, but you get the idea. Ro, can we DIY a vacuum cup? I've seen it done. Basically, you just take some PVC fittings, and then you can kind of make like a twist tube to make it work. Check Thunder's place. I know they have a guide for it, but like I wouldn't recommend it because like you can't tell if there's something wrong in the cups until you take it off. Fritzy, do you think a starting size can affect gains? Like, could 4-inch guy gain 3 inches too? So starting size is like a very hard thing to gauge because like you could be 4 inches long because you have terrible erection quality, and you could instantly get up to like 5 inches in 6 months just because you fix your erection quality, right? So there's a few things going on. I prefer to think PE as a percentage based growth. So like if you have a little bit more to start than someone else, you're going to grow a little bit faster than someone smaller than you. But there's also the fact that not everyone has the same like collagen density and then the same stem cell density. So that's going to change how fast we grow. But in general, there is no law that I know of, biologically speaking, that will limit growth from PE with the correct amount of breaks and everything else. Now, getting the 3 inches after 4 inches, we're literally doubling your dick. It's going to take a while, like straight up. But like based off of my own model, the more you grow, the faster you can gain because you have more tissue to work with. And I know this is kind of like counter to what a lot of people say about PE, but like if your dick's healthy, it's going to be producing more stem cells, and there's going to be more stem cells to produce more tissue. So that happens as you get bigger. It's part of the training response. So hopefully that gives you some hope. Man, people are blowing me up about that video right now. Let me just check my messages real quick. Okay, back to the show. Round crouton. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen one of those. Do you have an electric pumper recommendation? There's 3 different models on AliExpress and Temu with slight variations on each one. So I do sell an electric pump. You don't have to buy from me. I'm telling you now, they're pretty much identical. If you're looking, don't get an all-for-one unit. So like the top fits the tube perfectly and that's it. You can't expand it. What we have at Peak Male Physique, and please tell me it's in here. Nope, because I took it to the bedroom. But basically you have a connection to a cylinder that you can change the size with. And there's a few models of it. One looks like a TV remote, one looks like a big circle cylinder. As long as you can read the pressure gauge and you can set like the intervals relatively easily, that's what you're looking for. So like it's the Magna model, and then I call it just the generic smart pump. Those are usually the two that I see very common. Where is my chat? how much do you recommend 2 sessions in a day? So like, you don't need 2 sessions in a day, and what I really recommend is 1 heavy session and 2 light sessions throughout the day. So like AM light session, midday working session, PM light session. That way you're chronically dilated. But like, I've gained without doing that. So like, it's more like an optimization thing to make sure that you grow relatively quickly, but you don't need it. Okay, Eddie. I'm pleasantly surprised pumping is positively affecting my flaccid. Yeah, it's most people see ridiculous flaccid changes in the first 6 months. Okay. Daniel, are size gains influenced by being in a calorie deficit? Probably not. Like, I am in a severe calorie deficit. If you haven't seen my recent post on the community tab here on YouTube, you can tell that I've been working my ass off. But I don't think it's impacted my PE ability more so than it has impacted my erection quality. I just don't get as hard as quickly just because I'm so fucking tired. So like, you don't want to be in a too severe calorie deficit where it can actually slow down collagen production, but like, you can still gain in a calorie deficit. I would say no more than 1,500 calorie deficit maximum, and you should be gaining at a relatively normal rate. Okay. Jeff, can I make sure I get 1/2 inch or 0.6 of an inch in my first 3 months? I can't guarantee you anything. Age doesn't really play a role, except probably the closer you are to puberty, the more sensitive you will be to shape change and everything like that, just because your body's going to work with you. But like, I can't promise 1/2 inch. I know a lot of people that have gained 1/2 inch in their first 3 months. I have personally, but like, you know, I'm what people consider lucky. So, you know, just stick with it. You'll gain that 1/2 inch eventually. Now, Hitman, with a hypothetical, would I want to be 6x8, 5x7, or 7x4? Probably 6x8, because like, that's still a respectable length, and the girth is so ridiculous that it's going to be a novelty more than anything else. But like, 7x4, you could probably just get fillers and be 7x5, and then you'd have a conventionally big dick. So row. So we can't 3D print a vacuum cup. It would be pretty difficult. You could definitely do like a compression hanger 3D printing, but like, I've had very minor experience with 3D printing. Like, if those tolerances are off and you can't get a good vacuum seal, it's gonna be next to impossible to make a good vacuum cup with it. So like, you're better, like, you're honestly better off 3D printing a mold for silicone, not silicone, for acrylic, melting the acrylic and then making your own fucking cup than you are trying to just make the cup out of whatever PTEG or PLA or whatever. So low. 3 days ago, I was pumping with a cock ring, and my session, I noticed some purple spots, but I didn't feel any pain. Decided to rest until today. Do you know what happened? It's more than likely that you just, so like, if you wore a cock ring in the pump, I can almost guarantee you just broke subcutaneous blood vessels, and they'll heal on their own. But like, if you don't let them heal fully, they'll just break worse next time. So like, you're gonna need at least a week off to like have them fully heal. And this is actually like the #1 cause of discoloration, is the broken blood vessels leaving trapped iron deposits behind. Okay, Destroyer. I just put an order for the electric pump rings and some other necessities. I even got the horse rings. Those horse rings are huge, dude. Like, they're literally, like, the biggest one is going to be like that big around. So that's, you know, man-sized wrist right there. Like, I can't find a good reason for it, and I'm pissed at myself because I accidentally ordered even more of them. So like, I have 3,000 rings that literally don't work for most men. But, you know, it's pennies on the dollars for me, so. Row. We did that one. Chauki, I got a hard vein. What should I do? It was after pumping. So hard vein is not what actually happened. You have probably some kind of lymphoceal, which is just lymphatic buildup under the skin. And since the lymphatic channels follow the veins, they are going to be pretty stringy and look like a vein when they're really not. So what you should be doing is like light massaging to the lymphangiosis or the lymphoceal, whatever you want to call it. And then that'll slowly unclog it and it'll come back to normal. But if you continuously pump, it'll continuously get bigger because it's like a clogged drain and it's just going to balloon more and more. So you need to clear it out. And then you probably want to be doing those like lymphatic massages before and after every pumping session just to keep that lymphatic channel open and less likely to clog. V. Will injecting stem cells into my schlong enable faster gains? It should. Like, at least I think it should. So right, we have processing units for growth, and those are the stem cells. So if we just think about this from like building a house perspective, the more people we have working on different parts of the house, the faster the house is built. So if we have enough materials, hopefully, we can get the entire drywall up 50% faster if we have 50% more workers. Same idea goes for the penis. The problem with the penis though, is that, sorry, people are just blowing me up right now. But the problem with the penis is that since it is relatively avascular in the tunica albuginea, which is ironic because it's by such a dense blood vessel, you don't get a lot of nutrient delivery. So like even if we do increase our stem cell count in our dick, we might not be able to grow faster because we don't have enough nutrients there to build new tissue. And you can't really dose those that effectively because you need every single amino acid -1 for collagen, I believe. I think it's tryptophan that's not in collagen. So you would need to basically figure out a way to dose all that, then inject stem cells, and then that's going to be optimizing gains. Sorry, I got 5 fucking text messages in that time, completely irrelevant to what we were talking about, so forgive me. I need to disconnect it from my computer. Scott B, from West Coast and work during the week, so I never catch your lives. Well, sorry. Would you be doing weekends sometimes? So I already do 5 of these a week, right? It's a little difficult for me to like just do it constantly. I know Hank and I do better meetups on the weekend, so like maybe once a month I can do a live. But until then, you gotta just deal with the shitty time slot. Any concerns of radiation from infrared heating pads? Like what radiation? It's not going to be like gamma or, you know, actual damaging radiation. It's heat. So any light source technically has radiation. Any heater is radiating heat. It's just a way to move energy. So as long as it's not a very specific damaging radiation frequency, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but you'll be fine. Felix, if I extend for 30 minutes with vibration, is it better to do all the sets with it active, or should I do the last set without it in retention instead of fatiguing? You can do it all active if you're only doing 30 minutes. And then like that's when you put on like the all day stretcher, no vibrations, keep that shape. Hitman, I went to Master Novelties just now and it's $185 for the Apex. Yes, they are relatively expensive, but I'm telling you now that that's just how they can make it work with the quality of bill of materials they use. And then you gotta factor in production cost, labor, shipping, customer service, all that stuff. That being said, if you don't want to spend that much, there will be a cheaper version relatively soon that's going to be like, I don't know exactly how much less, but like significantly less. Zeif. Hey BD, has your opinion on Angion changed? Not at all. I still think it is vastly overrated. It can help erection quality, but I also think that if you just improve cardiovascular health and pump 3 sets, 5 minutes daily, you'll have better results. And you might actually gain some girth, like actual tissue from pumping. Destroyer, do you notice less edema with your weight loss? Yes, like I didn't realize how fat I actually got. So like the edema response I have now is significantly less, but it's not like the lowest it's ever. No, it's probably close to the lowest it's ever been. My highest edema response was a couple years ago when I was still like doing traditional like fetish pumping. Now like it would take me so fucking long to get the same amount of bloat in the same amount of time. Okay. Jeff, do you think going to the gym okay. Do you think going to the gym, sleeping 8 to 9 hours, eating right, like no sugars would help me reach it? Reach what? It should help like sexual health for sure. Would it help with PE? You don't really need to go to the gym for penis enlargement. It would help with erection quality. But like in general, just having a relatively healthy diet and good sleep patterns is going to help you with PE. Hank's in the chat. Yes, that's Finn. What's up, dude? Sorry for the drama. Yeah, there's a doctor doing girth enhancement by injecting something to stimulate collagen production, resulting in permanent girth. In theory, do you think it's possible? It would just make it stronger. So like he's injecting PMMA, and that's a silicone based microsphere that is also infused with collagen in the carrier agent. So you get a lot of collagen and swelling right at the beginning, and then your body will actually replace those silicone microspheres with its own collagen, I believe. Or it replaces the collagen injected with its own collagen. So like it is permanent real tissue for the most part, but it's not going to be like active penile tissue. This is going to be basically a glorified scarification and encapsulation, more specifically if we're talking about like plastic surgery. And tangent. So encapsulation is when they do like an implant. It's scar tissue and collagen form around the implant to keep it in place. And like if you get a breast implant and you fail to cause a good encapsulation, it's called capsular contracture, and that implant will just like shoot up and move because of the scar tissue that's formed instead. So I had a relatively high interest in PMMA before I got over 6 inches of girth, but I don't like how all of them look the same. So like I don't think it's really that good overall, and it definitely will hurt penis enlargement, like length gains. Okay, Kelly and Francois. How long would it take to go from 5.5 to 7 inches using a high tension extender and pump appropriately? Again, it's next to impossible to a time frame on this, because like if you have piss poor erection quality, you can literally gain an inch in 6 months just because you got back to normal form. But typically speaking, 5.5 to 7 is going to take 18 months to 2 years. So you're in for the ride. It's tedious, but like trust me, I believe it is very much worth it. TJM, the question disappeared. Okay, I have ED, so I can't go into the pump erect. Should I keep it at 5 2-minute sets? I take it at 90 seconds to get fully erect. And 2, should I take 4 tabs of virility or 8? So first, you do not need to be, if we're doing interval pumping in particular, you only need to be hard on the first set, and then when you pump up again, you should just be bloated but kind of spongy, and then you'll immediately get back to that size, if not a little bit bigger. Then if we're talking like traditional pumping, which it doesn't look like you are, so I'm not even going to answer that. So yeah, you're supposed to be a little bit soft after every set. The important thing is that you immediately pump back up, so that way your tunica doesn't contract. And then you can take up to 8 tablets of virility a day. We just noticed that there was a bit of a diminishing rate of returns going from 4 to 8. So like we marketed as, you know, 30 servings once a day, but like if you look at the Holy Come Load Grail, which is what this is loosely based off of, you're taking that much, but you're taking double that. So you're taking those 8 tabs, you're doing like the Holy Load, whatever. Jeez. So yeah, and then when we're working on another supplement that's boost loads even more, it's going to be 8 capsules. So like 8 capsules fine. You might just get some stomach indigestion with it. Skippy and BKH, why don't you create a new subreddit? Well, because I don't even know if it's really worth the time. Reddit has a toxic underbelly. Like, I think we all know this by now. And I much prefer just doing YouTube videos. It's much easier to connect to you guys doing this, right? So like, there might be one for business needs, but like, it's not going to be nearly as fleshed out as Getting Bigger was, because that was a different style of formatting, right? And like, I still have all my content on r/Getting Bigger. So to me, it'd be like just doing redundant work. If I get like a content manager, then we would consider it. But right now, it doesn't make sense. Now, if you're looking for another community that's not on r/Getting Bigger, we made Getting Huger, as in me and Perv. You can do that, and that's going to be a bit more just me, him, and potentially Hank. And then we have forum.peakmalphysique.com. So that way we have like an old school style forum, and it's, trust me, it's very slow right now. But the more people that use it, the more active it will be. So I don't know if I'm going to push it too much just yet, because I don't even have time for it. But like, we got contingencies. Okay, Raja, do we know when the website gets restocked? Sorry if someone asked. What is out of stock, and I can tell you when. Everything's on stock in Leviathan Wellness right now. The only thing that won't be in stock at Peak Mal Physique is probably my own lotion, and then probably like some random cylinder size that I don't know. Jack Hunter, the PE industry feeds on men's insecurities. True or false? Depends who you ask. Or, I mean, depends who the talking point is, right? So that's one of my issues with like affiliate marketing, is that it's predatory marketing. They look for your fears, your desires, and then they capitalize on it. So like, it is very easy to go after someone's fears. Just look at politics. So yes, most companies are going to capitalize on your fears to some extent. Normally the smaller companies don't, because like, they're actually in it for the they're in it for the culture. But like Bathmate, some extender companies that shall not be named here, definitely go after your insecurities. And I would say more so that like, more of the reputable companies go after the fantasy of being a stud rather than the insecurity of not being enough. But like, there's definitely a lot of companies that still go after the insecurity. Dashatorius, why aren't people gaining in r/pumping? Like I said, they are building up a bigger and bigger lymphatic response to pumping and not actually building new tissue. So basically, they're training their lymph vessels to hold a whole bunch of bloat rather than they're training their tissues to hold a lot of blood. So since the lymphatic system is relatively passive, it is very easy to overpower it, and therefore it's really easy to cause, basically, like, as Perv would put it, a varicose vein or a lymphatic prolapse in the penis, and then you can constantly just grow that. What we want to do is avoid that, so that way we can actually work the tissues. Now, Hank has not actually seen evidence of this, but this is when I played the experience card, and like, I have seen it basically firsthand. So like, there's an avenue for it, but like, it's just not scientifically available yet, like, you know, proven. Androgen receptor, will the use of SSRIs inhibit gains for PE? Not directly. So like, it could cause like more than normal penis contraction, right? And then like a lack of libido, and then you could get penile atrophy from the lack of use of the penis, right? So if it's hard for you to stay you know, in a relatively engorged state, flaccid, that's when you probably want to look into like using an all-day stretcher or something like that to combat the tightness from the SSRIs. If you're having issues getting erect for pumping, for example, the closest you can get to erect with the SSRI in your system is going to be better than going in completely flaccid. So like you can work with it, it just might be a little bit more difficult. It's going to take a little bit more planning to get around it. Okay, Antolian. Does edema prevent gains? So like there's a spectrum to edema, right? So you can have no edema and get all the expansion you need, and that's going to primarily come from clamping, believe it or not. And then you're going to have a moderate amount of edema, which actually carries some nutrients and some kind of like shape change aspects with it. That's going to be positive as well. And then we start getting to the point where the edema is so excessive that it starts like putting negative pressure on the blood vessels. And that's when it's actually going to interfere with healing, because one, it's going to be so diluted that you're not going to get a lot of nutrient delivery from it. And two, you're going to have to work out all that lymph before you can actually start rebuilding the tissue. So like it takes longer to heal if you have excessive edema. Now, most of you guys, as long as you don't get more than like 10% expansion, so like if you are 6 inches mid-shaft girth, because it's just easy math for me, you don't want to be more than 6.6 out of the tube, because that's more than likely going to be too much edema compared to actual tissue swelling. Now, swelling and edema are synonymous, but like there's, in the terms that I use, edema is going to be mainly subcutaneous under the skin, not doing much. Then you're going to actually have swelling of like the fascia and the collagen. That's what's going to actually be like beneficial edema, and that probably peaks around 20 to 30 minutes of pumping. Unbiased fan. Are there any supplements that help with PE? Help, not like cause growth, right? So like, for example, Fortitude is great for erection quality, but you know, you're not going to just grow taking it. It's not like a dick pill that you would see at a gas station or something like that. Vigor is going to help with blood flow, better erection quality there. And then anything that's going to help prevent like fibrosis, so like that'd be like our Safeguard supplement at Leviathan Sups. If you don't want to buy from us, that's fine. Just, you can literally look at the back of the bottle, see all the ingredients that we use, and you can get them as you need. But there are substances that can help with PE, but they're not going to do anything on their own. So Ro, when Perv gained 1.5 inches in 1 year, is that a special case or just hard work? So Perv is the most flexible man I fucking know. And then Perv also is probably one of the most I don't want to say well known, but like he really knows his shit with soft tissues. That was his like specialty beforehand. Like he has work done with professional athletes. That's how much he knows his shit. So between his ability to know soft tissue and his own natural flexibility response, he was able to put on a shit ton of size just because of his own first mental understanding, and then his own body not positivity, his own, you know, advantageous adaptations for PE. So I don't think most people could gain 1.5 inches in a year. I don't even think I could gain 1.5 inches in a year. But I think most people, if you use the same tactics Perv and I use, could gain around 1 inch in your first year, if you really stick with it. Okay, John Thomas. Does low tension extending over a longer period of time increases the chances of steel core compared to higher tension extending over a shorter period of time? Steel cord is going to be more than likely a stress response. So if we're shocking the tissue of a lot of weight, we're actually going to cause that kind of stress response, and that's what's going to be causing steel cord. So to answer your question, low tension is going to be less likely to cause steel cord. If anything, it will actually treat steel cord, because that chronic low tension signals shape change. So like if you have stiff tissue, it's going to start slowly breaking down and then elongating and be like putty again. So that way you can change the shape of it. V, how is the gainathon going? I've tried to get calls like 2 weeks ago scheduled, but like this is all on me. I suck at this right now. I have so much going on. I need to just sit down and do calls, but most guys are seeing improvements. It might not be the improvements we wanted right away, but like we're seeing improvements. For example, Koa and Rosewood both gained girth. I need to figure out what Bezo is doing. And then Aru has got significant improvements to his pelvic floor, and like that's going to be step one before we can actually get him to gain. So like we don't have like jaw dropping results yet, obviously, but we have been seeing, you know, the improvements that I would expect in that time frame. Androgen, do you recommend soft clamping with C rings or toe shields? I would recommend BFR rings at peakmalephysique.com. Toe shields work, you just need a lot more of them. And the cock rings that we sell on Peak Male Physique last a lot longer. But either way, they should work. It's just a matter of like how many you put on your dick. Ooh, pressure headache. Sorry guys. Again, still have that cold. All right. I'm gonna end it with Antoli unless a good one comes in. So he's single again. My girth is 5.4. I want to get to 6, but don't want to get too big. Do I think most women could adjust to 6? Yes, most women will be able to adjust to 6. The thing that you need to worry about is having lube. Okay, because like 5.5 is like getting to the point where it's going to be relatively thick, and if your woman is, you know, just relatively naturally dry, is going to be relatively unpleasant if you don't have a right lubricant. So like just have lube on hand is going to make your life a lot easier at those sizes. It's really when you start getting above 6 where it becomes really unyieldy, at least in my experience. But then again, I'm like married to a size queen, so it's not really unyieldy as it is just a bit more planning. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up here, guys, because I want to save my voice a little bit. I will be live again Monday, 2 p.m. unless I'm canceled for the shit I've said today on another video. So I will see you then. Thanks for tuning in, guys.